This podcast has topics in relation to death, suicide and drug use. This may be confronting for some listeners.
As veterans and first responders, we also use some dark humour in this episode. We ask that you keep in mind that dark humour is a timeless and research-supported method.
I just wanted to use that for dark humour.
I was like...
Yeah, I know. You were killing it. You were killing it. That's it. You like that?
Yeah. Did you make that?
Yeah. No.
Pro Tools, Logic?
Well, I don't even... You know what's going to be awkward?
It's GarageBand, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not even. It's just literally that red button. I've had nothing to do with any of these buttons. They do a whole bunch of other stuff, so we'll go through it.
Yeah.
In fact, I only use usually one of them. It's a flashback one, and it took me 5 goes when I was with Pete last time to work out which one it was.
Still working out which one.
Yeah.
I got it from Marketplace, so that's why. I didn't come with the instructions.
Yeah.
He threw them out.
Oh, God, 40 seconds
One button at a time, mate.
40 seconds, we still haven't introduced them, Pete. So Pete was sitting here last time. He's just like, well, what's going on with this rock show? I'm like, yeah.
Just good to have a laugh, that's why.
Yeah, okay. And we're almost at a minute. So today we have Alex Prestney. Is that how you say your name?
Yes, it is, yep.
The amount of times my phone said Priestley. It's
yeah. When the phone's not used to it, then it's but once she gets the hang of it.
Yeah, all over it. We had Nokias, my mate Lee. We used to type Lee, and for some reason Nokia couldn't work it out. It was Leggy all the time.
L-E-E or?
It was Leggi is what it went to. But no, it was normal spelling, Leigh.
Interesting,
normal spelling.
Lee. Normal spelling.
Yeah.
When I gave you another option.
Yeah. But yeah, and then it was like Leggy, and it was that was when he was probably
has to be a nickname.
It's his name now.
Yep.
It's still, and now you have to enter it into the new phone, so it's weird that it's come full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, a minute and a half, no one knows what you're about.
No, that's right.
So anyway, we've got Alex today. He's a runner as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you actually a runner though, or you just did it?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy running?
Yes, I have. I always say to people that I've been running ever since I could, and from little athletics, school athletics, cross country.
Yeah.
I was captain of cross country. Just throw that in there.
Jeez, let's see how this is going to go.
I wasn't good. I wasn't any good. No, I had my other runners were the ones who got the points for us, not me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, but you led the mate. Team champion's always going to be the champion.
I always had a coach that just said I wasn't never going to be the fastest, which is fine, but I could run all day.
What was your specialty distance?
Thinking back now, I was probably very wrong, but like I love the 1500, but then it was like, well, you love something you're so bad at. Don't know, but I just loved everyththing. Everything I've done, any sort of sport, any music, any whatever. I was just all jack of all trades, master of fuck all. I just.
Oh, okay, 2.5 minutes in, aggressive swearing. Okay, that's telling the tale.
Well, that's just the words. That's how I live by. It's just I was just master of none, but I enjoyed it across the board.
Well, we'll have to chuck a little disclaimer on in front of this one. Obviously, I can see where it's going. We do have a disclaimer. I've been pretty bad at it though.
We should be right. Our listeners are pretty mature.
Well, we used to be putting a disclaimer on in front of it anytime there was like if it was going to be a bit of dark humour and stuff, just give people a heads up. Right. And then,
I apologise. I was just too used to the banter we had off air.
Yeah, I know. We kept talking about smut books and stuff. So SJ Brand will be excited about getting a mention. No, there's swearing's well accepted. It's just usually, it's probably about 5 minute mark before someone feels relaxed enough to just throw that out there.
There's the disclaimer.
Did I throw one in yesterday? I didn't.
No, you were very calm, but I think
calming.
Yeah, well, it's not your pod. This one's about Alex now, so you can just get loose now.
Good.
Perfect.
Right. So you've run from Mildura to Melbourne. That's probably is that the biggest thing you've done so far, or have I ignored
100%.
some crazy stuff?
In terms of I've never done any sort of ultras or any. Things over weeks and things like that. But this was something that just popped into my head that I thought was a pretty good idea.
It's getting a bit weird on this podcast now. Like the guys that we've had on, we've talked about other stuff, but now, and in their own time, they've been running like 100K marathons and stuff that I never knew about beforehand. But then after you mentioned the first one, everyone's like, oh, well, you know what I did? I ran to Mildura.
Yeah.
so your 100Ks doesn't impress me. Just in case anyone's wondering, I don't care. Mildura's way further than that. Yeah.
To be fair, I broke it up a fair bit along the journey. I never did any longer than, I think it was 40 Ks.
Yep.
Thinking back now, I probably could have, but
why would you?
That's right.
Mate, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm struggling to walk that far.
I just didn't want to rush it, that's all. I just wanted to enjoy it.
Mate, so I've got an electric one-wheel over there, and it's got a 25K range. if you can run further than that, then I'm not interested. Like that's just weird to me.
Okay.
It's like, if it's not under 25k, then why am I going there?
That's right. Yeah.
It's endurance doing 25k on that. I've chased Fitzy around the Great Circle track up at the Uyangs, and
On that?
yeah. But like sometimes I have to carry it up the hill because it doesn't have the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he likes to do a thing where like he'll run because then he'll push up the hill because then I have to like jog this stupid 14 kilo thing up the hill to chase him.
It's such
and
a
then
bizarre contraption as well.
oh, it's sick. We'll play on it afterwards. It'll be a great reel when you hurt yourself.
Yeah, great.
So what were you doing? 40k a day.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Around I'd say between I mapped it out. It took a lot of sort of like going to the drawing board of how far per day and where it could be achieved. So if I had like areas that ran out of road or just wasn't going to match up to the end right, or it had areas, especially around Bendigo, that just kind of didn't exactly match up well. I had to go from like Wedderburn, and then going from Wedderburn to Bendigo was just too far, and so I had to sort of go back further back to sort of a better point to just make sure it's all consistent. I didn't want to sort of go 30k one day and the next one's got to be 60, and that was just going to be like, oh, I really ruined myself if I.
Oh, so this wasn't in the lead up. This is when you were actually doing the run. You were doing 40k a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, but during training and things like that, I'd say my training runs were between 25 and 30Ks.
Yeah. And were you doing them every day?
Not every day. I've always been like, because with our training that we've always done, like with Ironman triathlon and things like that, we never felt the need to actually go those distances because, and understandably, a lot of people, they go those distances to sort of that mental thing where you go, okay, now I know I can do that, go that far. Where some people will, train, they'll go, I did a 200k ride, so I know I can do it on race day. For us, it was just, it's less of more, kind of like, if you're doing weights and things like that, you do less weight, more reps. It was less kilometers more often, rather than just doing like a 50k run twice a week. It was more 20k runs 3 times a week, and that's where you just were able to build that it's almost like you're building a bit of armor through your legs to be able to sustain for that long.
Cool. Do you want to before we go into during the hardships and stuff, I'm assuming at some point it was hard.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
It got
So how did we just go?
It was no picnic at all. No matter how slow I actually was running, running 6.5 minute Ks and things like that. But that was because it was burning, like the injuries and things. No sort of like injuries that really like torn quads or torn hammies or anything like that. Just real sort of.
But just the wear and tear on your body. Like surely that distance is going to affect you later.
Yeah, and it really just like the importance of making sure that of the recovery was huge, to make sure that I had just appropriate massage and putting in the right nutrition and just to be able to go again the next day. So I might have finished one leg and then been like, oh my God.
How much time did you have between finishing and starting the next leg?
So we'd sort of get started in the morning at about 9 a.m. and the whole day would be about only 4.5 to 5 hours. And then it'd be, so for the first part, it was just like 3 in a row. We'd say, for example, it was Monday, the next one was Tuesday, the next one was Wednesday, and then I'd have a rest day. And then we go Friday, Saturday, and then if I was doing like a big bulk area, I think the run into Bendigo was, I had 2 rest days in Bendigo because that was where it was like a halfway point. We needed to reset a fair bit and actually go, all right, I can't just keep going because I didn't want to hurt myself and just be like, I did it, but I hurt myself. I'd rather actually do it properly and consistently.
Right. I'll just jump back in. Mm-hmm. Let's go from, because we'll go through like the lead up to it, who's helped you out, how the planning went and all that sort of stuff. But we should probably go through the why in the first place. Because like generally people don't just run from Melbourne to Mildura. I'm sure there are people that probably do it, but there's always a reason that people generally try and do stuff like this. Do you want to get into? Yeah. Obviously, it's your family and your story, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, well, obviously, as a lot of people know, there might be people who don't know.
I really want to do the flashback sound. Can I do it? I'm doing it.
Lovely. Hey, Sassy, that button. Oh,
it sounds.
I got that about 6 times yesterday.
Yeah, but your flashbacks weren't shit either, though.
It's going to make the story a lot more, bearable. So as a lot of people know, a lot of people don't know. 22nd of April, 2020, the Eastern Freeway crash in Melbourne. claimed the life of 4 police officers, my brother Josh being one of them, and also myself as a current serving member of the police force. Hard to describe what sort of shockwave it sent through our family and the wider community. And this run from Mildura to Melbourne was my, I wouldn't say statement, but this was what I wanted to do, both in memory of Josh, but also for other people who have succumbed to this sort of fate, and also to make our roads a safer place.
So what made you think Mildura? Like, is there a reason behind the Mildura to Melbourne?
Yeah, unfortunately as well, the last police officer for Victoria Police, Brian Joyce, was killed in a traffic collision as well whilst on duty up in Mildura. And so it just felt fitting, this idea that popped into my head. I had friends who were working at Mildura as well who were deeply affected by it too. And I just thought, hey, that's an idea. I wanted to do something. I saw so many other people who were, doing runs for this, runs for that, travels for this, and I thought, what can I do? And I just picked that distance, and I went, there we go, because the significance of it being in Mildura as well, but also it covers the entire state of Victoria. And
Malakuta would probably say that it doesn't, but yeah.
That's true. Yeah. But,
Can I ask how your psyche was when you're running for, obviously, traffic awareness and all that sort of stuff? How did you feel running with that danger?
Well, yeah, that was an absolute a highlight for us to make sure that we weren't, I guess, being hypocritical with it as well, and being sort of like, going like...
I didn't even think of that, but
just to sort of go, well, if we're going to be doing this, and the only way from Mildura to Melbourne is a road, we're going to make sure that we are able to find areas that is safe for this.
Yeah. Can you go into a little bit about your psyche when you're running 40K a day?
Yeah.
And are you worried about the traffic? Are you worried about those trucks coming past the 100K now?
Absolutely, yeah. But at the same time, we made sure that I would say 90% of the run was done away from the road, because that was a must for us as well. Luckily, it's almost like from, I'd say, Mildura to Bendigo, there is a slip track along the train line, which I knew because I'd been to Mildura a few times, and that was the kind of, it was just like that ticking that box of making this possible by going, okay, I don't have to run on the road. If I do, we're going to make sure that it's safe. We made sure that we went into it, and we did it with a plan of making sure that it was safe, with things like escorts from rural units, our own, I guess, support crew. We knew that we couldn't exactly...
I really wanted to do it before when it was like a shit time, because we usually have these awkward, savvy moments where we do it, but I was like, no, I can't. I couldn't do it before.
Open mine now?
That was really
excellent. Oh, but you don't have to. You can do it like when it's an awkward moment if you want, but... that was crisp. That was a good one.
Yeah. All right. I was getting thirsty here. It was just staring at me.
Sorry, but we'll jump back into the road safety. But on the day that this happened, right, were you working?
I worked the morning shift, yep.
So were you on when you heard it coming over the radio?
No.
All right. Because I was working that day.
Yeah.
And the way it came across to us was like there was a person who was literally running over coppers on the thing. And the amount of like chaos and stuff that was on the radio that day after it happened was just, and it took ages to get any sort of clarity on what happened. And even in the days afterwards, we still, no one knew what was going on.
That was the same for me. I was kind of thinking, and I've asked people as well who worked on the day, obviously close friends, I didn't want to just ask anybody, but I'll be like, so, because I had this, the morbid curiosity about it. Like going, what was it like in the thick of it? What was it like? Because I was at home playing Call of Duty with mates, and then when I got the news of it, it was, has anyone heard what's happened on the Eastern Freeway? And it was 4 coppers have been killed, and it was just like, from then, and this is where it's been burned for me for a long time, and I don't know what it was that made me think this. As soon as I heard that, the wheels just started turning, and I liken it to like, the movie Titanic, when they get the ship started again and the pistons start moving, and the engine room of thought just started for me by going,
he's on.
I think that's Josh.
He's working.
Yeah. And that sort of that feeling by going.
Was it like a gut feeling?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. And I just sort of thought everything just lined up. I was like, I knew that he was on his highway patrol placement. I knew that it was with that unit. And I know that that area is for that unit. And I was just thinking, nothing could drag me away from the feeling that it wasn't him. It wasn't sort of just like, the only thing that would was if he picked up the phone. And he didn't. And so
did that pretty much confirm it for you when you?
A lot of the time, because it did, but it also still didn't. It was that trying to tell myself, but as coppers, a lot of us are just realists about it, and when we when the things start to happen and we make those observations, things just cement it for us. Where I was thinking, well, all right, and my wife as well. We were just thinking, well, no, he's just busy. He's attending to the job. He's not that unit. He's just attending to the job. He can't answer the phone.
Which would have been possible.
Could have been possible. That's what we were thinking. We're going, no. It's. But then after maybe about 30 times of ringing, I'm sort of thinking, no, he would have picked up at least once after all that time. And then that was just like, I remember the day so vividly. And so many days I don't remember, but that day I even if I tried or if I had some sort of memory charm, I just could not get rid of it.
We heard over the radio, they're like, you need to switch over to this channel now. They're like, four coppers have been run down and there's a bloke on the run and he's taken their guns and stuff. Like the amount of information that was not available and But
where did that information come from?
Well, apparently there was a whole bunch of people, because obviously it was a massive accident. There was heaps of people ringing up O and stuff and saying, oh, there's this, there's that, there's guns on the road, there's this, because obviously when people have been hit, all their equipment went everywhere.
Yeah.
So I dare say people saw somebody picking it up and then moving it potentially.
Yeah, right.
But they were like, people have grabbed it and run away, which is why it then we were getting told it was like a terrorist thing where people would run down coppers to take their guns and whatever. Like,
that was one of the things that we got wind of as well, that it was possibly like deliberate. That was, that was a real, potential, obviously from things that we've seen in the past of those sorts of attacks being like vehicle-borne attacks sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, maybe it was deliberate. But obviously that was.
It was just the chaos that was going on that day. And like, I obviously wasn't personally involved. Like obviously you did. Like I didn't know any of the people that were killed personally, but it was like the vibe was very much a uniting police sort of scenario. Like it was like we've had someone had a crack at us, and it wasn't until ages later, and obviously because of other dumb stuff that happened that we won't talk about. But like it was such an open wound. Like if we'd known straight away it was an accident or whatever, you'd be pissed, but you'd be like, okay, I understand what's happening. But it wasn't even like, I don't know that we knew what was going on for like a couple of weeks later. How did you find out? Because it's because now you would have been on both sides, I would assume, of a death message.
Yeah, it's such a. And the thing is, when I was talking about with those things that we as coppers, we know what's going to happen next. We know how the situation goes, and that's when. And the same goes with like mum and dad, where there was a time of the night, and the one thing that I can't remember is how time went, and then the silence was deafening. It was a deafening silence for us at home when it was just things were just happening, but we just knew. And I remember, as we were trying to go through it and things like that, like mum and dad, like the thing that I was trying to hold myself together for was with mum and dad and how they're going to find out. I was like, I don't want to be calling mum or calling dad and going, something's happened. I don't, it came to where, mum called me and she said, we've just seen something on the news. Is everything okay? And I couldn't hide my angst or nerves for it. I was just like, I just don't, I've been trying, I've been trying this, I've whatever. And then it just accelerated. Things just accelerated then. I could hear Mum's voice start to shake. I heard Dad in the background, going, and it was almost like it was just that your body just went into this. It was I could in Dad's voice, I could hear the adrenaline dump, and going, what's going on, sort of thing. Like, this is not just we've just heard something happened. It's become like it's now involved us. It's become very real now. And after that, it was like let's just try and find out as much as we know. Keep calm, if that's possible. And then when it came to that whole then knowing what's about to happen next was I don't even know what time it was. I want to guess it was like 9 p.m. A knock on the door from my senior sergeant at Prahran Highway Patrol.
It happened at what, like 10 in the morning or something?
5:36 p.m.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I can't even remember what time it was. I thought it was sunny and morning.
No, it was just sort of like this is how weirdly I can just remember it all. Yep. Just that sort of dusk setting of an orange sky.
Yep.
Yep. That's it. That's the exact time.
Yep.
And so from then, the knock on the door from my senior sergeant with a friend that I had at Highway Patrol, and it was just and I just knew that it was going to happen. Yep. After a while, I picked myself up off the floor and I just went upstairs to bed, and I just sat up in bed. I don't know how long I sat there for. It's like that has been erased from my memory of what the hell I did there. And then I heard the door buzz, and then I remember.
Had you done a death message before this?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yep, a few, yep. But with this one, it was kind of just like, I don't know, it was different because of the magnitude of it. Unfortunately, I've done some that have been completely out of the blue. When someone's answered the door with a smile on their face and things like that, where you've got to deliver the worst news of their lives. But at the same time, with this, it was kind of just like, that's the formality of it, isn't it?
Yeah. I've had because when I've done them before, and it's it's so different every time.
Yeah.
I've had some people that have tried to console me because they're like, "I'm sorry you had to be there for it. I saw you. Sorry you had to see it." And they actually try and look after you.
Yeah.
Other ones obviously just lose it, start beating you up because it's your fault that it happened. But they're just processing emotion. But I've never had a death message given to me. Like, I've done a whole bunch of them, and it's the worst part of the job, I reckon. Like, I'd rather be assaulted and stuff because I can taser someone and it's fun.
Yep.
But I should probably take that out. But then, whereas with the death message, there's no good and it's life changing. You know that you are the responsibility you have delivering a death message when you're like, this moment is going to be remembered.
Yep.
And I don't know what the relationship is with this person. Because some people you turn up and you're like, oh, is this Johnny? And you're like, yeah. And he goes, well, I thought it was going to happen a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
they're like, oh, did you have any money? It's weird.
Some of those,
it's a weird response.
I've had those too as well, where you go, thank God that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
Not easier, but it was just like, oh, it's just so different to what I thought it was going to be. Jesus.
Yeah.
Luckily you haven't, because there have been some that have been, harrowing that we've all had to do.
Yeah, and sometimes you're there for an hour or something because the person's unconsolable until you can get someone else over. But I've never been on the other end of it and known what happens. So once I've left, I don't know what happens. And I guess I never will with these other people. And your situation will be different from all of them as well because you knew what was coming.
That's it.
As soon as you saw them, you're like, yeah, well, I was right.
Can I ask why they get you guys to do that? I mean, you guys have a hard enough job as it is. Why are they getting you to do this incredible thing? Like you said, life-changing for individuals. Why isn't there a special department that handles this stuff?
There is, it's the police. But I can understand why. It would make more sense, I guess, to be doing social workers or something else to do it. But the thing is, it's not speedy. They're not 24/7. They're not whatever.
Yeah, but that can be implemented. It's not going to be fast straight away. But
I'd say it's something that's been around for decades and they've just stuck to it.
I just don't think that should be part of your job. Well, I understand why you're doing it, but
it can be very compounding for. It can be like you said, some people would rather be assaulted and absolutely go through the worst physically, but then actually have to do that. Like for someone to be like, I'd rather be on the front line for protests and getting, involved in physical altercations than have to do that.
The only thing that I've found that was worse than doing death messages is when you get pinpricked, because you've got to wait for 3 months to work out if you've got AIDS, hepatitis, whatever else it is.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I've had worse.
Scarier.
Yeah. So like being assaulted and stuff, it's like done and dusted. You have your adrenaline dump and you go. But like death messages, suicides, those two really stick with you.
Yeah.
Suicides has really been a big thing where I'm trying to work out, is this a suicide? Is it an accident? Is it whatever? And you have to read old mate's letter. You have to try and work it out that way. And then you're like, it's a suicide.
And it really should be handed off to someone who's trained in that area. You guys are trained for a different thing.
What do they do, like a day? We do a day where you talk about death messages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah. And it's just kind of just like, oh, my God. All right, next topic. It'd be interesting to see if there is how a lot of these sort of services work, and when it comes to implementing change, it's all based on statistics. If this is a difficult part of the job for people mentally, then do you change it? Or
being an ex-service member, there's a lot of PTSD, anxiety, that sort of stuff in the military. So I'm assuming the cops is just as much or even higher.
Oh yeah. Yep. To be involved in that sort of thing. It's not just, for some it may be different to be able to deliver that message and just completely wash off. But for some who it might be their first, second, or it might be the worst, they might have gone to dozens and this is the one that actually sticks with them. PTSD that's what can contribute to it. It's not just, other things that we've gone to in the job.
Or it can be the accumulation of years of this.
Yep. At Geelong we had, and they probably have it at other units, but we had like the police and clinician emergency response. That would probably be your best unit to do it, but it's not a thing that is prioritised everywhere. Like if you can't put a divvy van on the road, you're not going to do that.
That's it.
But also they're tied up a lot of the time because you only get one clinician and they might be talking to someone else who's having some sort of crisis. And you're like, but the police is really a catch-all for pretty much anything. It's like if you've got a noise complaint, there's a dispute between neighbours. There's so many events that you go to as a cop that aren't police. They're not really police jobs, but who else are you going to ring? So it's just like if in doubt, a cop goes. Yeah. I'd love to start sending fireys too.
Well, that's that's
neighbourhood displays.
That's the common trend. A lot of people get so surprised of what VicPol is the control agency for and things like that.
Yeah,
it's just like and just for not for only critical incidents and things like that, for anything. You go, who's the control agent for that? Department of Fisheries. No, it's VicPol.
You guys should be getting paid a shitload. I mean, these bloody politicians are getting all the money, and you guys doing the hard yards. So.
It's a tough gig as a politician. He's up. I'm
about to go off, Chris.
So how long was the boss and your mate turned up for? Like how long did the message go for? Was it just like
not long?
I get it, guys. Thanks.
I don't think very long. But then what? The first thing I was to do then after was got to go to mum and dad. Like that was the priority, and then we just literally packed a bag that was, I don't know, a couple of nights worth of clothes or whatever, crammed them into the back of the BMW, and he just took us to we were in Bentley at the time, and he just drove us to Templestowe.
Cheeky, unnecessary flex, just chucked it in the back of the Beamer. Like, wow, okay, mate.
Their car.
Time and a place for flexing, jeez.
But yeah, no, just this sort of, the word surreal gets thrown around so many times, but just this sort of the experience of all of that was just not on my bingo card, not on anyone's sort of, like I was supposed to just keep working, just doing what I was doing as a first Connie, and just to go to work the next day. I remember when we were actually driving up to mum and dad's, the thing that I could, say was, what do I do about work?
Yeah.
And that was just like probably a dumb question in the scheme of things.
You would have had like compassionate leave or something.
It was just like a non-thing that I didn't even have to. I remember him saying, he just said, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay. Because it was just this sort of ticking over what the hell was going on next. But then, when we got to mum and dad's, just everyone was there, or family and family friends, and God.
So did you tell them?
They knew.
On the phone? Oh, okay.
They knew.
So they'd already had their own message.
While I had mine, they had theirs as well.
So they did it at the same time?
I think so. I don't know whether it was planned or coordinated that way, but
I dare say it would have been if it happened at the same time.
Yep.
Give them some credit.
Yeah.
Well, because if you'd done one, then the other one would have told them straight away. But
that's it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I might have gone to you first as a person in the job who understood it, but then you don't know how you're going to react anyway. Yeah. Just because you're in the job doesn't mean you're a stone-faced killer. Not like Pete over here. So you've gone over to your parents' place, and then obviously it was just a shit show.
Just an absolute. That's why, another thing that I say that I can remember it so vividly, but these little pockets of memory, I just cannot. But I've got little things here and there that I can remember. I can remember how Dad looked, and the best way we describe it, me and Mum, we just say he was grey. There's people who look green when they're sick. They look blue, but he was.
You saw the blood had obviously run out of his.
Yeah, seeing someone who is grey is it's a horrible look. And it's just what, I don't know whether I looked like it or whatever. Or
you probably look like shit as well, mate.
Probably, that's it. I probably looked horrible. But from my observations of it, I was like this, and what now? I remember going to bed that night and just don't remember falling asleep. Don't know if I did or anything like that. I remember waking up a few times at night and just sort of being, and there was just no thoughts in my head. It was just being awake and trying to believe or feel that it's real. Josh was living at home at the time at mum and dad's, and everything was just there. Everything was just there for the day. He'd gone to work and left his laptop open with his guitar. Just that the emptiness really, really hit there, where it was just like looking around, going, "What on earth is just?" He belongs in there, and it was a lot of it was trying to believe that this was real, and almost 5 years later, I still don't.
Was there any conversations with the parents where they're just like, "You're to quit. We're not having you do this anymore. We've lost one. We can't do it again."
No, actually, no, because it's what I wanted to do in the first place. This wasn't sort of, any sort of going on like, no, this is too dangerous sort of thing. It was just like we knew how freak it was, and not even a 1 in a million because it happened, but at the same time,
the amount of intercepts and stuff that have been done with policing, and it hasn't happened before. Like the odds would probably be up there.
Absolutely, but at the same time. It was just, just didn't have that thought that just...
Did you have your partner back then?
Yeah.
And was her thought different?
I'm not sure. Probably, and like any partner or parent, there's always that worry of when you're, person that is doing that every day, but you don't think about it. I remember we didn't think about, and
we don't. I don't know if they don't think.
No, that's right. Yeah, but they said we didn't go and think and worry about you walking out the door and not coming home. And the funny thing is that you only think that now when it happens. And that's unfortunate for all of us, where it's just like, well, because we have that experience.
But is that just us deconditioned? Is that part of?
It's different to when it's your life and you control the risk. It's different. Like if your mate was going over to Afghanistan or whatever, you'd be, because you're not there and helping him out, you'd be like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
It's like any time I'm not working the van and then I see the van go past, I'm like, oh, they're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Who's going to back them up or whatever? It's the when you're not there that probably the anxiety. When you're part of it, even when it's like a job and it's loose and you're jumping fences and there's dogs and all sorts of stuff, you're like, well, I'm in charge of what happens here.
That's right.
I'm allowed to do my risk management, but like as a person who's sitting there waiting for someone to come home, when like And you have that with a lot of kids. They were saying where their parents go away and then they see stuff on the news, especially when the news is everything's the worst, everything. Yeah. Like that'd eat into a partner. But
when I was overseas, it was always about my training. I never thought of anything like that. It was always about my training's good enough. I feel good enough. And
and you
control this situation.
Yeah, you can control it. You know that you're looked after in the way that this doesn't happen day to day, and you know that. And we all knew that because it wasn't like it was his very first shift ever as well. You know, he'd been in the job for months beforehand, and actually, we're lucky as a police force and a country when we can go to work but you know, sometimes it is unpredictable. Sometimes you just don't know, but we are still lucky to know that it is safer than most. I'm not going to say that it's an absolutely safe job.
It is happening more often.
It is, yeah, with you know, I guess dangers that present themselves, but at the same time, we try our best to control it as much as we can. And that's what gives other people confidence and hope to know that, okay, yeah, you're going to be looked after. Luckily, thank God for that, because people who don't know what a police force is like, all they know is things like social media, the media, other countries, and you go and you base it on that, and you go, oh my God, this is a terrible job.
Oh, and the extremities as well, because you got on the one hand, you've got like the TikTok dancers, and then on the other side, you've got like just mass shootings all the time, protests and whatever. Like there's the vast majority of police shifts are nothing to do with either side of that.
No, it's hard to make heads or tails with it as well. But on the, you know, I guess, the topic of that, it's sort of just what's brought me into my own mortality, my own risk and safety has been what's sort of been highlighted for me recently in terms of, and I've been doing things like going when I go to work, I'll be thinking to myself, am I coming home today? And that was when the first time that came up, I was thinking, right, what do I do now? If I'm having this thought of, and it's not because, you know, of what I'd experienced, it was from what Josh experienced. I was thinking to myself, it happened once, it can happen again. Other people might go, oh no, surely it was just, you know how unique and rare it was, but I would be saying to myself, nah, it's not that rare. And
every senior member I've worked with has their own quirks based off a job that they've had. So it's like they have. Yeah. You get taught obviously at the academy a certain amount of things, but then when you go and you learn from new coppers, like they've all had some weird job that turned up that they're like, hey, I always check this side now because some random person popped out of a letterbox, or you know, I got attacked by a monkey one time because I didn't look on the roof, or whatever. Like it's just, and you just like, what? I never would have thought of that. And they didn't either, and they got ambushed by it. But now they're always checking that sort of thing. So like the more times that, and that's where life experience comes into it. The more years you do, the more things you're looking for before you come in, because you've been caught out by stuff.
Exactly.
Sorry, I thought you were going to say something.
No, I was just.
So anyway, on that super exciting upbeat story.
Well, so it's a story that I like to tell because it's the rawness of it. You know, other members who might be listening to this and things like that, where they, you know, and same for yourself as well, like what information came across to you, what you were doing that day. It's interesting to me to find out what people were doing that day. And I tell the story of what it was like for me that day, in case there were people who were wondering of what it was like for, you know, for somebody else. It might have been just like, Jesus, lucky that wasn't me. And I wish, and I, you know, if anyone, people might want to say that as if to be like, you know, I don't want to be insensitive, but I'd be like, nah, geez, yeah, you're lucky. Yeah. Wish it wasn't anyone, but yeah, that's fair enough to be thinking that. So I wouldn't say, you know, like telling the story, but it's an important story to tell because of just what it was like for all of us that day is.
I think it'd be interesting too that, I mean, I doubt that the van and highway would know that tactical units are actually listening.
Yeah.
Like just the way it was coming across, like we were gearing up like it was on. People were hunting coppers that day. And I just wonder if any of the other boys would know that we were actually doing as much as they think we're not turning up to anything.
Well, yeah, that's it. But yeah, maybe a lot of what other people were doing, I absolutely have no doubt in my mind that when it came across, there were people from all across the state tuning in to 0401 and actually going, what's going on? And wanting to hear what's happening in the news spreading like it was.
Because usually nothing happens at 0401.
Now the biggest police incident in history.
Yeah, no, well done.
Has there been a knee-jerk reaction to procedures when it comes to traffic stops and things like that?
Not yet. I'm hoping that there is scope for change though in terms of that, and that's something that I want to eventually spearhead and be part of, and not for our own agenda or for to be like, okay, good, we fixed that so it doesn't happen again. It's overall it's for safety, and if there's a way you can do it through research and I guess giving the best reason why, then you go for it.
So from there, obviously you weren't having a great time. How did it come up that you were like, I'm going to run to Mildura? Like how long afterwards?
When did I think of it? I thought of it in December 2022, I think, towards the end of that year. Going.
So how long after was that?
So that's 2 and a bit years, probably 2 years, 10 months, 2 years, 9 months, something like that afterwards. Yep. I was thinking, like what I was saying, I was like, I want to do something. I want to do something that's going to be beneficial for everyone in this case, not just like everybody has their pilgrimages and their journeys as to why. But for this, it was like the reason that I want to do this is because road safety, unfortunately, is not going to be a topic that we're ever going to be able to shelve. And I felt that I had something to offer with it, with not just sort of jumping on road safety and jumping on this. I've always been passionate about it when it comes to, before I got my license, motorsport, and just the whole context of driving and being on the road and being a road user was something that I felt after this incident needed to be enhanced. And I was sort of just thinking, well, yeah, what can I do? Who can I do this for? And how can I make a difference, even if it's just minuscule or, on a huge scale? I didn't care of what sort of traction or what it did, as long as I felt that I knew that I did something that was going to help, that was just going to help in some way. Because I felt like I just, I needed purpose with this. A lot of things with work itself was difficult to sort of be like, what am I going to do with this now? What sort of person do I want to be in this space? And I wanted to be someone who made a difference for him, with not only in Josh's memory, but for other people. The people who don't listen or the people who don't agree, that's fine. I can't change their mind. I can't change anything. I didn't want to be one of these people who went on this, trying to change the world, because you can't. And I've had gone through that realization, but I'd always known that too. But it was always just going to it that you cannot force people to do this if they don't want to. This is for the people that will listen and who will hear you and who will come along with you as well. I'm not going to try and drag people who, I don't know, to stop hooning, stop speeding, stop, being a bad road user or whatever, or making poor decisions. This was to throw it out there to people who wanted to come along with it.
Did you feel you were treated differently because of what happened to Josh in the job?
Yeah. Yep.
Can you go into that a little bit?
I felt it was hard to describe of how I felt, but it was obviously with a lot of sympathy, but at the same time, there was also judgment.
Like you shouldn't go on that job, or it's kind of
hearing from people that outside of whether it's the public or whatever, when it came to I guess me being introduced to this whole thing as well. There was basically the story that was made of it was that it was Josh and his brother, me, is also in the job. And then a bit of commentary, came about from that of, whether I should be in the job or not.
What Saving Private Ryan styles? As in like, because they've lost one, you should be retired or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or like, this is going, people just sort of throwing in their 2 cents as well, which was fine. But also,
that's literally why I asked you about the parents and missus, whether they thought that.
Yeah, but also when it came to I don't know, after the fact, where I found positivity in a lot of things, judgment came there, and that's that happens unfortunately with a lot of people, especially with what you want to do.
One thing I found interesting with coppers is they've all got a very personal reason why they joined, and highway patrol has been a real eye opener for me because there's a lot of different highway patrol officers. Obviously, some of them got picked on in high school, but there's other ones that are you're right, but there's but then there's the other ones.
When are we going to tee off on cert members?
Oh, I don't care about it anymore. But gym time is good. But then there's the other ones that I found that like their parents got run over by a drunk driver, or like a mate of mine, he was a loose unit in the army and died early, and we all were like, yeah, that makes sense. Story checks out. We're like, how did he die? Like we thought he'd bought 14 kilos of coke in Mexico or something. Like that's where we thought he'd been going, or he'd been killed by some drag queen in Brazil or something. But he was walking down a street in America, and some drunk driver went up over the curb and ran over it. Yeah, and we were like, "Are you of all the stuff old mate was doing?" It's like that's the way that's how he went out, and it's just And I remember at basketball when I was younger, like we had this coach who was super anti anybody drinking pretty much at all. And that was because his parents got run over.
Yeah.
I mean, he went from being 15-year-old to coming home and he had no parents.
Yeah.
Literally just because a drunk driver ran over him. They were walking, just going for a walk together.
Yep.
And then died, got run over, put through a fence and into the front of someone's house.
And you will come across those sorts of stories where it's just but I never wanted to have, I guess, a hard-nosed attitude about this sort of thing. Obviously, there are things where you have, your reservations following, and that's just human nature. You can't change that. You can't. It's too hard to shake, especially when it comes to how something or why someone was taken from you in the circumstances. It's so hard, but at the same time, you learn how to, I guess, treat it with respect, and like whether it be people who, for example, with what you said about how somebody died when it came to drink driving, and then going, all right, I'm never drinking again, or I don't like people who drink. I don't like people who make a decision where they have one and then they drive home, sort of thing. I learned to understand and respect that everyone's different and will go about these things differently. But at the same time, you need to understand the consequences of your risks. And who's to say that if you take one, you swing the other way with it, where I might make an example of, I'm never driving on a freeway again, or I'm never going anywhere.
I'm only running them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so much safer.
I'm only going to run on. Yeah. I'm never doing this again because of what it did here. And then something.
People do that, though.
Yeah. But then I was sort of thinking, well, what if something else happens with my alternate thinking? That's just a bit philosophical. The way I think of it.
I've had people before, and like obviously in the cops, you meet a lot of people that have been through some stuff. But there's people that were like, oh, I'm never catching a train again because I saw this on the news, and then they're like, I'm never leaving this and that, and whatever. And then they turn into hoarders, and then their house catches fire, and they die at home.
Yeah,
exactly. And you're like, every decision will have consequences.
Yep. And you can't. We realised that we didn't want to absolutely try and change this, or to try and do something that was going to be. We had to face the reality to make sure that we stuck to who we were and what we did, and we realised that this, or doing anything else for this, isn't going to help us. It could only make us bitter. It could only make us more a bit too hyper-vigilant in the way that things could get a little bit difficult for us down the track. So what we did instead was to make sure that we'll go with this run, find a way to do something empowering, not for you, and it was also the fact that I felt that for myself I needed to do something. I had, and still do have, everything about me ripped from me. And this was a tiny little piece that I was just putting back together. This was a little section of the million-piece puzzle that I was able to complete.
The run is a risk though, that much time basically in your head running and then being fatigued and that sort of stuff. Like it's either you'll run it out and go through it.
This might surprise you, but this was the most empowering thing and one of the best things we've done since. This was just...
That's what I was saying beforehand. It's like you're going into it going, oh, this will be good. But it's like every step could be getting worse for you or every step could be empowering you.
We didn't care.
Which was great.
Yeah. We would say, me and Dad would say, Dad did a lot of the run with me. Same with Mum, same with Rachel, my wife. We just did it together. We knew that one step in that direction was closer to the finish line. It wasn't that way. And we'd be going, might be an absolutely horrendous shooting pain in my quad, and I was limping at times. And I'd be going, this doesn't hurt because we've done hurt before. We've done hard before. We'd be saying to each other, no, it doesn't matter. Just, push each other as we can. If you have to stop and walk, you stop and walk because we've done hard before. This doesn't hurt. That's the mentality that we went through on it. It was just like, it doesn't matter how much this hurts. We have a goal ahead of us.
I think it's a lot of the times with like PTSD, anxiety, like breakups, grieving, like all these feelings that you have. There's pretty much nothing you can really do to combat it. Like there's no way. Whereas physical pain, you can like mentally, you're like, oh, I can push through and do that. But like you can't physically push through missing your brother.
No.
So it's an interesting thing where if you can replace one with another, sometimes it helps you once you've reached that. It's like you can put it to bed or at least try and put that emotion to bed. Like some people get tattoos they're like, it's not about the tattoo. It's about the pain going through the tattoo. And then once it's finished,
That's what all this is.
He says he's got a stereotyped forearm tattoo.
but everything like here, this is all Josh. This is everything that me.
Is that Donkey Kong?
Yep.
Is that DK?
Yep.
Is that a controller?
Yep. So I we wanted to do a bit of as a side note, we wanted to do something that was significant for. And Dad's got an identical one as well.
Oh, really?
Not of this design. He's got an identical one of similar. He's got Josh's guitar tattooed on him.
Yeah.
He's got a.
How old was your old man? Was this your first tattoo?
No, he's got a couple. Nothing massive, but he's got a couple. He got one in the army and things like that. But this was just like. Nothing that was horrendously like emotional or anything like that. But we were just like, no. For me, it was like, no. His favorite character to play when we played Mario Kart was Donkey Kong, and there's evil Homer up there, and there's the Magpie, being a family of Collingwood supporters, and
God, here we go.
40 seasons.
You got all your teeth.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
You got to come up with something different. Seriously, you got to come up with something different to the Collingwood supporters having no teeth. Like. Even I'll be on board with it. Like, do you want me to go with
the man in the gold outfit?
Oh,
no, okay.
Oh yeah, jeez, up in that can of worms. But yeah, and he's got artwork from a band called Mastodon, which is a metal band that Josh loved. He had posters and paintings of their artwork, and this was our thing. But it wasn't anything like it was just our stamp in a way, and it's with us forever. So,
what's the one above it about?
These were just a couple that I got when I was younger.
Yeah,
I just sort of,
I didn't want to say just on the off chance that this was something else, but I was just like, it's a drunken night out.
No, I was just being, I like that design. That's pretty cool.
We've all got them, mate.
Yeah, as well.
Like, where's your Southern Cross tattoo?
It's got to be on your back.
Calf.
Oh, you got one?
Yeah, of course. Very good. Very good.
You had a Made in Australia one?
Yeah. Nothing more patriotic than the Southern Cross.
Southern Cross.
I got a Made in Australia on the old arm.
Wow.
Yeah. Good times. How much longer we got you for?
What do you need?
All right, we might have a time out now. Have a little break and I'll come back if you're happy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or anyone else would quit. You're not going to stop there. So
Just do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? Just do it. Simple.
do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? Just do it. Simple.